Jungle woke slowly beneath the golden light of sunrise. Mist drifted quietly between the trees while birds crossed the sky above the river. Everything looked peaceful, untouched, and calm. Deep inside this endless wilderness, every creature had a story of survival. Some stories ended in fear, while others created bonds no one could ever expect. On this very morning, another story was beginning. A story not about hunting, but about protection, loyalty, and an impossible friendship that would change the life of a tiny deer forever. The river moved gently through the jungle like a silver ribbon under the morning sun. Small insects floated above the water, while soft wind moved through the grass nearby. The jungle looked alive, but hidden dangers waited beneath the beauty of nature. Every sound carried meaning. Every shadow could become a threat. Yet for one small deer family, this morning felt safe. They had crossed this area many times before. Nothing seemed unusual. Nothing warned them that within minutes, their peaceful world would collapse forever. A graceful mother deer stepped carefully through the tall grass beside the riverbank. Her ears moved constantly, listening to every sound around her. Survival in the jungle depended on caution. Even while searching for water, she stayed alert for danger. Behind her, tiny footsteps followed the most important thing in her life, her little baby. The mother walked slowly, making sure the baby stayed close. She had protected this child since the day it was born, and she would do anything to keep it safe. The baby deer jumped happily through the grass, completely unaware of the dangers hidden inside the jungle. Butterflies flew around him, while sunlight reflected softly in his innocent eyes. To him, the world still looked beautiful and harmless. Every tree was something to explore. Every sound was new and exciting. He trusted his mother completely and followed her everywhere without fear. Whenever she stopped, he stopped too. Whenever she moved, he ran after her playfully, believing nothing bad could ever happen while she was nearby. Her deer suddenly paused near the edge of the river. She lifted her head and looked carefully around the area. The jungle had become strangely quiet. Even the birds seemed distant now. Instinct told her to stay cautious, but the baby beside her was thirsty after the long walk through the forest. Slowly, she stepped closer to the water while keeping her eyes alert. She could not see the danger hidden beneath the river surface, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. The baby deer lowered his head and watched his reflection dance across the moving water. Tiny ripples spread gently around him while dragonflies hovered nearby. He looked peaceful and innocent beside the calm riverbank. His mother stood only a few steps ahead, drinking carefully while still watching the jungle around them. To the little deer, this moment felt normal and safe. But hidden deep below the surface, cold eyes watched every movement they made. The river carried silence, but danger was already moving closer. Even under the dark water, a massive crocodile moved slowly through the mud. Its body remained almost invisible beneath the surface, while its eyes focused directly on the deer above. It had waited patiently for hours without making a sound. Predators inside the jungle understood patience better than anyone. One perfect attack could mean survival. The crocodile drifted closer with deadly calm, using the water itself as cover. Above the surface, the deer family still knew nothing about the danger quietly approaching them from below. A sudden wind moved through the trees, shaking leaves across the riverbank. Birds resting nearby flew away unexpectedly, almost as if nature itself sensed what was coming. The mother deer looked up for only a second. That single moment was enough. Without warning, the river exploded into violent movement. Water crashed everywhere as the crocodile launched itself from beneath the surface with terrifying speed. The peaceful morning shattered instantly, replaced by fear, chaos, and the sound of desperate struggle beside the river. Crocodile locked its massive jaws around the mother deer's body and dragged her violently toward deeper water. She kicked desperately, trying to escape the crushing grip pulling her under. The river churned around them while mud and water sprayed into the air. Her terrified eyes searched for her baby one last time. Every instinct inside her screamed to survive, but the predator's strength was overwhelming. The jungle showed no mercy. Survival often belonged only to the strongest creature. The baby deer stared helplessly at the terrible scene unfolding before him. He could hear his mother struggling in the water, but his small body refused to move. Fear trapped him completely. He wanted to run toward her, but instinct warned him to stay back. The river turned violent as the crocodile dragged her deeper into the dark water. The little deer could not understand what was happening. Only moments ago, everything had felt safe. Now his entire world was disappearing before his eyes. Then the mother deer fought with every remaining bit of strength she had left. Her legs kicked against the water, while the crocodile twisted violently beneath the surface. Waves crashed against the muddy shore as the deadly struggle continued. But slowly, her movements became weaker. The predator's grip never loosened. Nature could be cruel, and sometimes even love and courage were not enough to survive. The baby deer watched in horror as the river slowly swallowed the only family he had ever known. The river became quiet again. The splashing stopped. The struggle ended. Only moving water remained where the mother deer had disappeared beneath the surface forever. The baby stood alone at the edge of the river, unable to understand the silence around him. His breathing trembled, while tears filled his frightened eyes. The jungle continued as if nothing had happened. Wind moved through the grass, birds returned to the trees, and the river flowed on without sympathy for the tiny life now left completely alone. The little deer slowly stepped closer to the water, searching desperately for any sign that his mother might return. He stared at the empty river with confusion and fear. Every sound made him turn suddenly, hoping somehow she was still nearby. But deep inside, loneliness had already begun to grow. The safety he always depended on was gone. For the first time in his young life, the jungle no longer felt beautiful. It felt cold, endless, and dangerous. Clouds slowly moved across the sky, covering the warm sunlight above the jungle. Shadows spread through the trees while the tiny deer wandered alone beside the riverbank. Hunger, fear, and exhaustion followed him with every step. He called softly for his mother again and again, but no answer ever came. The silence hurt more each time. In the wild, loneliness could become just as deadly as any predator. Without protection, every path ahead carried danger. As evening approached, the jungle changed completely. Strange sounds echoed through the trees while darkness slowly covered the forest floor. The baby deer moved carefully through thick grass, frightened by every shadow around him. His legs trembled from exhaustion, yet he kept walking because stopping felt even more dangerous. Somewhere nearby, unseen eyes were already watching him. Predators understood weakness instantly, and an orphaned baby deer wandering alone was the easiest target imaginable inside the wild jungle. Rain began falling softly through the trees as the little deer searched desperately for shelter. He squeezed beneath the roots of an old broken tree and curled into himself for warmth. Thunder rolled quietly in the distance while cold wind passed through the forest. The tiny deer closed his eyes, but fear kept him awake. Every noise sounded dangerous now. Without his mother beside him, the jungle no longer felt like home. It felt like a place determined to destroy him. But the new day brought no comfort. The baby deer stepped carefully from his shelter and looked around the wet jungle. Mud covered the ground while fog drifted between the trees. He was hungry, tired, and completely lost. Yet somewhere deep inside, the instinct to survive pushed him forward. Even the weakest creatures fought to live. Slowly, he began walking again, unaware that another danger had already discovered his scent nearby. Two wild hunting dogs sniffed the muddy ground carefully. Their sharp eyes followed the tiny footprints left by the baby deer during the night. Hunger made them restless and aggressive. They moved silently together, communicating through instinct after years of hunting as a team. A helpless young deer alone in the jungle meant easy food. Slowly, they followed the trail deeper through the forest, growing closer to their prey with every passing second. Baby deer suddenly stopped walking. Something felt wrong. His ears lifted nervously while distant growls echoed through the trees behind him. Fear returned instantly. He turned slowly and spotted movement between the bushes. The hunting dogs had found him. Their eyes locked onto him with deadly focus. For one frozen moment, nobody moved. Then the predators charged forward violently, breaking through the grass as the terrified baby deer turned and ran for his life. Jungle exploded into chaos as the baby deer sprinted desperately through mud, rocks, and thick roots. Behind him, the hunting dogs chased with terrifying speed. Branches snapped beneath their feet while growls echoed across the forest. The little deer slipped, stumbled, and nearly fell several times, but fear kept him moving. Every second mattered now. If the predators caught him, there would be no escape. Survival depended entirely on reaching safety before exhaustion finally slowed him down. Terrified baby deer leaped over fallen branches and pushed through thick bushes while the hunting dogs closed the distance behind him. His breathing became heavy and his legs burned with exhaustion. Panic filled every movement he made. He no longer knew where he was running. He only wanted to survive. Suddenly, the trees opened ahead, revealing another riverbank glowing beneath the sunlight. Without thinking, the baby raced toward the water, hoping desperately that somehow danger would stop chasing him. Edge of the river stood a massive lion drinking quietly from the water. His golden mane moved gently in the wind, while his powerful body remained perfectly calm. He looked strong, fearless, and completely in control of his territory. The baby deer froze for a brief second. Another predator stood directly 5 in front of him, but the hunting dogs were still charging closer behind. Out of pure desperation, the tiny deer ran toward the lion instead of away from him. The baby deer rushed beside the lion and pressed himself close against the giant animal's legs, trembling with fear. The lion slowly lifted his head, surprised by the terrified creature suddenly hiding near him. Before he could react further, the hunting dogs burst from the bushes and stopped near the riverbank. They growled aggressively while staring at the frightened deer. The lion turned his eyes toward them, and instantly the entire atmosphere changed. The lion stepped forward slowly, placing himself directly between the baby deer and the hunting dogs. His deep eyes remained fixed on the intruders while his muscles tightened beneath his fur. The hunting dogs hesitated for the first time since beginning the chase. They knew this predator was far more dangerous than their original prey. Then the lion released a massive roar that thundered across the jungle, shaking the trees and freezing everything around him. The hunting dogs stepped backward immediately, frightened by the lion's overwhelming presence. Yet hunger still pushed them forward. One dog barked aggressively while the other circled to the side, searching for an opening toward the baby deer. The lion watched every movement carefully. He could have ignored the situation completely. The little deer meant nothing to him. But something inside him refused to allow the frightened animal beside him to become prey. One hunting dog suddenly rushed forward, attempting to grab the baby deer before the lion could react. Instantly, the lion lunged with terrifying force. His roar exploded through the air while his massive paw slammed the attacker violently into the ground. Dust and mud flew everywhere. The second dog backed away in panic. The lion stood over the injured predator protectively, warning both hunters that crossing another step closer would mean death. Realizing they could not defeat the lion, the hunting dogs finally retreated into the jungle. Their growls slowly faded into the distance, while silence returned beside the river. The baby deer remained hidden near the lion's legs, still shaking from fear and exhaustion. The lion looked down at the tiny creature beside him with calm curiosity. Normally, prey animals fled immediately from lions. But this frightened baby refused to leave. The lion turned away from the river and began walking slowly through the jungle. After taking only a few steps, he noticed soft footsteps following behind him. He glanced back and saw the baby deer trailing close beside him. The little animal clearly did not want to be left alone again. For a moment, the lion stopped and stared silently. Then, without aggression or warning, he continued walking deeper into the forest, while the baby followed carefully behind. The sun moved lower in the sky. The lion crossed through dry grasslands and rocky paths with the baby deer still following him closely. The strange pair moved through the jungle together in complete silence. Other animals watched from a distance, confused by what they saw. Predators and prey were never supposed to travel side by side. Yet somehow, trust had already begun forming between them. The lion eventually stopped beneath a large acacia tree near an open clearing. He lowered himself onto the ground to rest after the long day. The baby deer stood nearby nervously, unsure whether he was truly safe beside such a powerful predator. Slowly, the lion closed his eyes and relaxed peacefully. After watching him carefully for several moments, the little deer finally stepped closer and curled beside the lion for warmth and comfort, covered the jungle beneath thousands of bright stars. Crickets echoed through the darkness, while cold wind passed gently through the grass. The baby deer slept quietly beside the lion, protected for the first time since losing his mother. Though the lion rested with his eyes closed, he remained alert to every sound nearby. Deep inside, an unusual responsibility had begun growing within him. Somehow, this tiny orphan had become part of his world. Before sunrise, the lion quietly stood and scanned the area around the sleeping deer. He moved through the darkness carefully, checking for danger before returning beside the little animal again. The jungle respected strength, and the lion ruled this territory through power alone. Yet now, instead of hunting, he guarded something weak and vulnerable. It was a strange feeling even for him, but he accepted it without understanding why. Pre-morning sunlight warmed the clearing while the baby deer explored nearby bushes searching for food. The lion rested beneath the tree, watching calmly from a distance. Whenever the little deer wandered too far, the lion lifted his head immediately, making sure danger stayed away. The jungle remained full of threats, but now the baby no longer faced them alone. For the first time since the river attack, fear inside him had begun slowly fading. Another lion wandered through the grasslands searching for prey. Unlike the guardian lion, this newcomer was older, aggressive, and constantly hungry. Scars covered his body from years of brutal fights inside the wild. As he moved through the jungle, he suddenly noticed the small deer feeding alone near the clearing. Instantly, his predator instincts awakened. An easy hunt stood directly ahead. The aggressive lion crouched low and began moving silently toward the baby deer through the grass. Every step remained careful and controlled. The little deer continued eating peacefully, completely unaware of the danger approaching behind him. Nearby, the guardian lion still rested beneath the tree, though one ear twitched suddenly. Something about the jungle atmosphere had changed again. The attacking lion exploded forward from the grass and charged toward the baby deer at full speed. The frightened deer jumped backward instantly and tried to run, but the predator was already closing the distance rapidly. Panic returned stronger than ever. The baby cried out loudly while sprinting desperately toward the only creature he trusted, the lion who had protected him before. The guardian lion's eyes opened immediately the moment he heard the terrified cry. He saw the attacking lion rushing toward the helpless baby deer and reacted without hesitation. With incredible speed, he launched himself between them and released a furious roar that echoed across the jungle. Dust exploded beneath his paws as he blocked the attack completely. The two lions faced each other with deadly intensity. Both powerful predators growled deeply while circling through the clearing. The baby deer backed away fearfully, watching the enormous animals prepare to fight. Neither lion wanted to retreat. Territory, pride, and survival all depended on strength. But for the guardian lion, this battle carried something more important now. He was defending someone. The aggressive lion attacked first, slamming violently into his opponent. Both predators crashed through the dirt while roaring furiously. Claws and teeth flashed as the brutal fight shook the entire clearing. Birds flew from nearby trees while smaller animals escaped into the bushes. The guardian lion fought harder than ever before, refusing to allow the attacker near the baby deer again. After a long, violent struggle, the guardian lion finally overpowered his enemy and forced him backward across the clearing. Injured and exhausted, the attacking lion realized the battle was lost. With one final growl, he turned and disappeared into the jungle. Silence slowly returned once again. The baby deer stared at the guardian lion with complete trust and gratitude. The guardian lion slowly approached the frightened baby deer. Instead of fear, the little animal stepped closer to him again. The lion looked down quietly, almost surprised by the bond that had formed between them. Nature said they should be enemies, yet life had chosen another path for both of them. And the unusual pair continued traveling together through the jungle. The lion protected the baby deer from danger, while the little animal followed him everywhere faithfully. They crossed rivers, rocky hills, and endless grasslands side by side. Every sunrise strengthened the strange connection between predator and prey. One afternoon, the guardian lion stopped suddenly near the edge of a large valley. Far in the distance, several deer moved carefully through the tall grass. The baby deer noticed them instantly and froze with excitement. They were members of his own kind, a herd strong enough to protect him and raise him safely. The guardian lion looked toward the distant herd and then slowly back at the baby deer beside him. Deep inside, he understood what needed to happen. The little deer belonged with his own family now, not beside a lion forever. Even though the jungle had brought them together, their paths could not remain the same forever. The lion began walking slowly toward the herd, while the baby deer followed beside him. The closer they moved, the more nervous the little deer became. He trusted the lion completely now, and leaving him behind felt frightening. Yet somewhere ahead waited the future he was meant to have. The deer herd noticed movement and immediately became alert. Several adult deer stepped protectively forward when they spotted the lion approaching. But then they noticed the tiny baby deer walking safely beside the predator. Confusion spread through the herd. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. The guardian lion stopped at a safe distance and looked calmly toward the herd. He showed no signs of aggression. The baby deer slowly stepped forward, glancing back repeatedly at the lion behind him. The herd cautiously moved closer, recognizing the frightened orphan among them. One female deer gently approached the baby and touched noses with him softly. Others gathered around carefully, accepting him back among their group. The little deer finally stood surrounded by creatures like himself once again. Yet his eyes never stopped searching for the lion nearby. Scene 49. The guardian lion watched quietly from the edge of the valley, while the baby deer reunited with the herd. Relief filled his calm eyes. He had protected the tiny orphan through every danger and finally brought him somewhere safe. His task was complete. The baby deer suddenly turned and ran back toward the lion one final time. He stopped beside the great predator and looked up at him silently, almost as if trying to say goodbye. The lion lowered his head gently toward the little deer before stepping backward again. For several long moments, neither of them moved. The wind passed softly through the grass, while the jungle remained completely quiet around them. Even without words, the bond between them felt real and unforgettable. The lion finally turned away from the valley and began walking slowly back toward the wilderness alone. Behind him, the baby deer watched carefully, unwilling to look away. Part of him wanted to follow the lion forever, toward safety, while the lion disappeared farther into the golden sunlight. The little deer stopped repeatedly to glance behind him, still watching the protector who had saved his life. Scene 54. As evening covered the valley, the guardian lion climbed a rocky hill overlooking the distant herd. From above, he could still see the tiny deer moving safely among the others. Quiet satisfaction filled him as the sun slowly began to set. Baby deer rested beside the herd for the first time since losing his mother. Though sadness remained inside him, he no longer felt completely alone. Somewhere nearby, a guardian still watched over him. It returned to the jungle once more. Stars filled the sky while cool wind crossed the valley peacefully. The lion rested quietly upon the rocks, stronger yet somehow gentler than before. The baby deer lifted his head toward the distant hill as though he could still sense the lion watching nearby. Some connections never disappear, even after goodbye. The jungle remained dangerous, wild, and unforgiving. Predators still hunted. Fear still existed. Yet within that harsh world, compassion had survived where nobody expected it. The story of the lion and the baby deer slowly became part of the jungle itself, a silent reminder that strength does not always destroy weakness. Sometimes, true strength protects it. Every sunrise after that carried memories of the impossible friendship formed beside the river. The jungle moved on, but neither creature would ever forget the path that brought them together. Baby deer continued growing stronger within the herd. He learned how to survive, how to move carefully, and how to sense danger before it arrived. But deep inside, he still remembered the lion who changed his life. The guardian lion returned to his solitary life across the grasslands. Yet sometimes, when the wind carried familiar scents through the jungle, he would pause quietly and look toward the valley again. Nature had created them as enemies, but fate transformed them into something neither of them could understand completely. Their story became larger than survival alone. For some creatures fight only for themselves. Others fight for territory or hunger. But the guardian lion had fought for something unexpected, another life. The jungle remembered every roar, every battle, and every sacrifice that happened beneath its ancient trees. Among those countless stories, one bond remained truly rare. The baby deer often stood beside the river at sunset, staring across the water quietly. Though fear once lived there, the river also marked the beginning of his survival. Far away, the lion walked alone through tall golden grass beneath the fading sunlight. Powerful, fearless, and silent once more, yet forever changed inside. Neither the lion nor the deer could speak, yet their actions had said more than words ever could. Trust had existed where fear should have ruled, and the jungle remained filled with danger, but it also proved something important. Kindness can appear in the most unexpected places, even within the heart of a predator. The baby deer slowly became part of the herd completely. Still, whenever he heard a distant lion's roar, he never ran in fear like the others. He listened quietly, almost recognizing something familiar hidden within the powerful sound echoing through the valley. The guardian lion continued ruling his territory with strength and courage. Yet deep inside him remained the memory of a tiny creature who once trusted him completely. Some stories inside the wild are written through violence and survival. Others are written through loyalty, sacrifice, and impossible friendship. For the lion and the deer were never meant to walk the same path. Yet fate brought them together when both needed something they did not expect. And somewhere beneath the endless jungle sky, their story continued living forever. A reminder that even in the cruelest world, compassion can still exist inside the strongest hearts.